When God was looking for a person, whom shall I send, and who will go for us, to be sent into the most interior parts of the dark continent, particularly the perilous forest of the northeast India? The answer came in the person of Dr. G. Crozier, who answered saying, "Here I am, send me." Dr. Crozier was the first medical missionary at Kangpokpi, a pioneer and a trailblazer. Those were the days when bullock carts were used as means of transportation. Dr. Crozier, along with his wife, journeyed from Tura, Shillong to Manipur in a bullock-driven cart. After scanning the landscape of Kangpokpi, he was particularly attracted to this place, the mission compound. Soon, the first hospital took shape in the form of a little camp on his own personal efforts and expenses. He visited patients in the villages and administered medicines to them without any hesitations. Thus began the legacy of this historic and legendary institution, which is arguably the oldest hospital in the state of Manipur and perhaps one of the earliest in the entire northeast regions. In the earlier times, the hospital was well known as the center for leprosy cure. Thus, any patients suffering from leprosy in the state who needed much care were picked up and given treatment. Later, he opened a leprosy center, following which many lepers were treated successfully. The leper center is now being used by the MBC Higher Secondary School as an office and staff's quarters. Besides running the hospital, he also set up an orphanage too, thereby blazing the trail for the bright future of so many destitutes and the homeless people. Many people brought motherless babies, expecting the Sap Kangnu, or the White Lady as Mrs. Crozier was lovingly and respectfully called, by the locals to do miracles of saving them. They were assisted by the local widows and helpers. In spite of many obstacles, be it cruel weather, poor abode and sanitation issues, lack of nutritious food, lack of communication, none of these could deter him from his humanitarian services. The leprosy center was closed in 1968, after which the center as well as its inmates were shifted to Jorhat Christian Medical Center for further treatments. After Dr. Crozier left this place, pioneer missionaries in the persons of Dr. Verilius, Dr. Jonas Alquist, and Dr. Frank Curry looked after the hospital, giving their best efforts as they tried emulating the services of their predecessor, Dr. Crozier. Dr. Jonas Alquist needs a special mention here, considering his sincerity and selfless dedication towards his work. Upon his sad demise, he was buried here in the Kangpokpi Mission Cemetery in an unconventional but unique way, wherein his coffin was placed upright, thereby making him stand tall even after his death, signifying that even if his body was mortal, his spirit stands strong amongst us to this day. The hospital was closed from 1941 to 1948 due to the onset of the Second World War. It was reopened only in 1948, ever ready to serve the local people again. However, by that time, the foreign missionaries were not permitted to stay. Thus, the hospital was without any residential doctor for about 2 years. On account of the need for one national doctor of Indian origin, Dr. Wallace G. Momin joined the hospital in 1956. He was the first Indian doctor appointed as a residential medical officer. Owing to his ill health, he could not render much service satisfactorily to the hospital. and was compelled to retire from service in 1969. However, we will remember him for the fact that it was during his time the news of an Indian doctor spread far and wide, and many patients came pouring in. After his retirement, the hospital was once again in need of much overseeing, during which we cannot forget the immense service of Mr. Kangpokpi Christian, the compounder, and Reverend D. Singson, the then headmaster of Manipur Bible Institute, who faithfully managed the activities of the institute. Finally, amongst these tall leaders and stalwarts, standing out in prominence was Dr. A. Russell, who along with his wife took over the hospital work in 1971 as the medical superintendent. He was an experienced surgeon and his wife a dedicated staff nurse of Jorhat, who in their best efforts tried to revitalize the hospital and its administration again. Eventually, there had been significant improvements in all areas, namely construction of hospital building and OPD, leveling of football ground, construction of staff's quarters, widening and repairing of the approach road. Middle school, which was famously known as the Children's Training School, was also opened for the staff's children and was later upgraded to a high school. He, seeing the need for the upliftment and empowerment of the tribal girls in the field of education and employment, a nursing school was established in 1982, rendering training for female health workers. So far, more than 400 students have graduated from the nursing school. It was during his time the hospital was at its peak of glory. Notably, patients from all over Manipur and neighboring states came here for treatment during those days. He retired from service in 1993. After his retirement, Dr. Thangkum Gangte took the charge as a new medical superintendent and retired in 2005. He was a capable leader, an educationist who gave his best for all-round developments of the area. The other notable leaders worth a mention after Dr. Thangkum Gangte are Dr. James Tauthang, the medical officer who served from 2005 till 2008. Dr. K.P. Rongmai, the medical superintendent who served from 2008 to 2011. Dr. L. Hangxing, medical officer who served from 2011 to 2012. Dr. T. Hadzal, medical superintendent who served from 2012 to 2016. Now, the present Chief Administrative Officer since 2016 is Mr. Pomentang Mar, and the medical superintendent is Dr. S.K. Levon, lovingly known by the locals as Dr. Athang Levon, since 2019 till date. Under their dynamic leadership, the hospital is being managed in full swing currently. The hospital and its ministry is now a glorious 100 years, and its future lies in our hands. As we celebrate the centenary of national leadership, let our spirits be stirred afresh, our responsibilities understood, our visions clear, forgetting the past and striving forward by doing good as our Master taught us all to do at all times. Thank you.